What is up? We are doing Tidbits and Scribbles tonight, and I am trying to figure out the buttons. So bear with me here, and we will bring everybody back on. Maybe. Possibly. Let's try this. Hey, look, I found them. Hey, there you are.
I do believe it worked.
I can do this.
Of course you can.
So tonight, Amy has to leave early. So I'll just call her out first.
All right.
We were going to talk about writer resources. What do you use as resources? Places you go to get info, people you go to get info. Do you have any right off the top of your head that you use, or?
Honestly, Google's a great one.
Google? What is Google?
Google is your friend.
Seriously, anything you want to learn, you might want to be careful how you type it in, but
book research first.
As my husband found out the hard way, if you're looking for the the Dick's Sporting Goods store, you don't type in dicks.com. That's not there.
Yeah, that one would be. I would believe that would be a bad.
I say make a friend. Make a friend.
He was not prepared for that. Yes, but honestly, Google, you can find pretty much anything. There are specific things that I use, obviously, that are my go-tos, but in general, it's pretty great.
Somebody asked me tonight, because we were tracking a weather balloon on the internet, okay? And he was like, okay, I can hear it on my radio now. And he says, I wonder how far that is. And I said, okay. And I said to Google, how far is it from Rantoul, Illinois to Clinton, Illinois? And it said 77 miles. So I was able to answer him right there and then.
Hey.
Yeah.
And YouTube is also a very good resource for the very same reason. Although you have to, like Google, you have to filter the answers a little.
Yeah.
So
the trick is learning how to ask the right question.
Yes, the right keywords in there. Yeah.
Okay. What about Brian? I know you got a stack of books.
Oh boy, do I. Well, when I first decided I was going to be one of those guys that got paid for putting words inside those little balloons in the comic books, I started doing a lot of research, and I think it's really helpful to have a reference library, not just information, although I've got books like on police procedures, what things were like in the Old West, various things, and also how to write for certain genres like science fiction or even the inspirational market, because I thought temporarily about getting into that Chicken Soup for the Soul family of books, which are, by the way, people are always looking for articles.
Mm-hmm.
Not
so
my
it's a
time.
good way to that's a good way to build your creative resume.
Yeah.
But some of them are like, this one, I know Donna's probably going to show this one. Becoming a Writer, Staying a Writer. This is probably my favorite book. This is my favorite book right now. Really practical advice from a guy that is doing it all right. And one I just discovered recently is from an online friend of mine, Sean Taylor, called Giddy and Euphoric. No, it's not about my high school days. It's basically on writing and reading, and it has some useful information on, like, especially if you write stuff that takes place in the past, like I do. A lot of the environment back then was not quite as enlightened as we are now. And how to portray it and keep a certain amount of sensitivity while still being true to that era. Just a lot of little things. And then somebody who was really an inspiration when I was up and coming was a guy named Lawrence Block, who's written a number of award-winning mysteries, and he was the advice columnist for Writer's Digest for 10 years. His replacement was J. Michael Straczynski, but he's written things like Writing the Novel from Plot to Print, and I love the title on this one, Telling Lies for Fun and Profit.
Yeah.
This is one I need to rewrite or reread rather, and just all kinds of things like, you know, writers on writing, and it's people like Elmore Leonard, Arthur Miller, P.J. O'Rourke, a whole bunch of different writers, different disciplines on the craft of writing, and then this is one my mother gave me, and you can't see the name on it, but it's very early Dean R. Koontz.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, like, comic books, Right or Wrong by Dirk Manning, about how to build a freelance writing career. Because a lot of the things, you know, he's mainly comic books, but a lot of what he writes about is basically useful for everyone else. And then you can also get, like, experts in their field.
Yes.
On how to grow your sideburns. And you know, like I said, you know, Cop in the Hood, you know, various bits like that. And then two I also refer to every now and then, and it's more or less mindset stuff. One is from, both of them are from Avatar Press out of Champaign, or formerly Champaign, Illinois, from the desk of Warren Ellis, who's written for just about everybody. And it's about attitudes in writing and how, you know, while it applies to comic books, it can also apply to prose. And then Alan Moore's Writing for Comics, about how to approach work with forethought and what you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it. And for those who don't know, Alan Moore is the guy who created Watchmen, V for Vendetta, From Hell with Johnny Depp, certain things like. But this is always in print, and it's an excellent, excellent read.
Awesome. Well, Frog G's jumping in here. Say hopping by before he has to work. So, I like that, Frog. Give the bell and subscribe, please. Yes. Okay. Do you have any more, Brian?
I've got a whole library full, but other than that, but no,
Of course you do.
I really do, because, like I said, I get inspiration, I get all kinds of information, and now I've gotten to the point where I am no longer treating these things like Fabergé eggs, and I'm getting the highlighter out. And I am going through them with, you know, and I'm just marking.
Dog ear the pages, use the note things, yes, because you will reference them. Or I find I reference them as much as I would reference something, the Chicago Manual of Style when I'm editing.
Yes, that's very useful.
Oh my God, I am tabbing that thing and dog-earing pages and like stuff that I never thought I would reference comes up when someone gives you a brand new thing and they're like, well, but wait a minute, that's not supposed to be edited that way. And then you break out the book and you look and you're like, well, according to this book, it is. So now, what do you want to do? Do you want to follow the book or do you not want to follow the book? Because I'll do whatever you want, but this is how I was taught.
Yeah, same with me. And the Chicago Manual of Style was required reading when I was in journalism class way back in the day. So, yeah, we had to read sections of it. We didn't have to read the whole thing, but we had to read sections of it to pass our English class in high school or in college.
yes, I remember those.
I didn't have it in high school, but college I got it finally. Our high school was lovely. One of the ones I wanted to touch on is called 7-Figure Fiction. My critique partner Linda found it. I don't know how she found it. I think InfoStack is another one to check out. Lots and lots of times they'll have a really good deal on like 500 books for a set price. But you've got to download them right away, or you've got to get this package deal right away. And there's a lot of great authors in there, like Joanna Penn. He's also got a podcast.
Great newsletter.
Yes. And 7-Figure Fiction completely, I won't say completely changed my mind, but it flipped things on their head and made me go, oh my God, how did I miss that? How did I not see that? And now every time you read a book, watch a movie, you go, oh, it has that universal fantasy. Okay, I get it. And she talks about your plot or your book needs butter. What makes it taste good? Butter. Put the butter in it. If it doesn't have butter, your readers aren't going to like it either. And throughout the 7-figure fiction book, she will tell you, right there's the butter. Here's how you add butter. And by the time you're done with your book, your readers will love it. And the things that she points out are nothing spectacular, nothing way out there. They're just stuff you don't notice until you're told, hey, notice this, look at this. This is why this sells. This is why people gravitate to that book or that movie. Universal fiction or universal fantasy is what it is.
I don't know about butter, but I would be willing to bet that there's an awful lot of salsa that goes into your books, Michaela. Yeah, they're spicy.
Salsa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll call it salsa, yeah. But yeah, there's that universal fantasy of like the knight in shining armor or the damsel in distress. That's a universal fantasy or a universal.
Oh yeah.
So it's in a story, whether you know it's in a story or not, whether it's the forefront or not, it's there. That's why Beauty and the Beast worked. That's why Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs worked. That's why Sleeping Beauty works. There's always that universal fantasy. World mythology. Who wrote that one?
Roy Willis.
Okay.
Forward by Robert Walter, and it contains a lot of material from Joseph Campbell.
Okay.
Who would know?
And if you're familiar with the hero's journey, that's the guy that kind of codified that. And whether we know it or not, a lot of us adhere to that.
Yeah.
Without even, because it's so universal.
Yeah.
I mean, if you break it down, that's what Star Wars is. That's what Lord of the Rings is. That's what most fairy tales are. You get all the way into yeah. Well, let's just. I'm stalling out trying. Too many things are hitting my mind at one time, and my mouth is going, "You can't say that." No. A well-stocked research library
Yes.
is a really nice thing to have, and basically just anything that you are really, really interested in yourself that has anything to do with something you may write about, or you don't think you're going to write about, but sooner or later it might come up. I mean, I've got 4 different bartenders manuals that wind up being useful when I'm writing the Spaceport bar stories. I'll look up a drink and I'll throw in alien names for the stuff, and you know, it comes.
There you
it
go.
just gives it verisimilitude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a nice word.
Yes.
And
I
then
got so I could give you look at the stuff that I've used. So anything by, I don't know if you can see it, writing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Martell, anything by Craig Martell or Chris Fox. I think
Chris Fox, he's great.
are really good. They really, I mean, Craig Martell knows his stuff. And I believe Craig's the one that runs the 20 to 50K.
Or 50 books to 50K?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right.
And then there's Mark Dawson. He's got marketing and writing information out there.
Okay.
And just kind of flipping through what do I have, on my Kindle. So a lot of stuff is my Kindle's where I keep a lot of it.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bunch on mine.
I've got a lot of audiobooks. And I tell you what, right now my favorite resource is Masterclass.
Yes.
I bought a subscription and I just finished Neil Gaiman.
Oh my God, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Best class I think I've ever taken.
And did you know that they have PDFs? You can download the PDF and look at it later.
Yeah. Well, it has PDFs that go along with it, but I listened to it while I was driving, and then I go back and I look at the PDFs and rewatch.
Yes.
but it's fabulous. I did the James Patterson class several years ago. That one didn't do much for me, but the Neil Gaiman one, I was just completely enthralled. And there's so many more. R.L. Stein is on there. So if you've got the money to invest, it's like a one-time fee for the entire year. It used to be you had to pay per class. Each class you had to pay like $60. Now it's like, I think $120. You got the
and
whole
if you wait
year.
till about Christmas time, they run a special where you can get 2 people for the one price. So if you've got a buddy that's a writing partner, get in with them, and it's half the price.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I bought it, and then I gave a membership to my son so that he could look up anything he's interested in, because there's everything. You name it, it's on there.
And Project Gutenberg is another wonderful thing. You can look up stuff there that, yes, it has been transcribed, and sometimes it's just scanned and nobody's bothered to correct the errors, but got my wife a copy of Mrs. Beaton's manual of how to run an estate in Victorian times, basically, is what it is.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember the exact title. It is almost 1,200 pages long.
Wow.
And it masquerades as a cookbook. But if you go through it, it's gives you every detail of how to set up a Victorian era kitchen, garden, preparing food, who serves what the servants do, different servants do, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that, and it's a complete. It's a slice of Victorian life. Anybody that's writing in that era would benefit from just dropping the book on a table, and whatever page opens up, you're going to learn something.
Yeah, I can see that.
We've got I think the one that I got for her was a PDF of it, and I have never been able to afford enough paper to print out 1,200 pages.
Good Lord.
She's got it on a hard drive, and I've got a copy here somewhere too. But there are other things there too. If you're going through, if you're one of those sci-fi writers that's inventing a religion for some alien species, there's the Koran, the Book of Mormon, the Bible, the Apocrypha from the Christian Bible. There's the Torah. The great resources that you know, and some of it's just good to know anyway. I mean,
right. For personal reference,
yeah.
Rich said, Masterclass is also awesome because you can look at it, other writers and styles that make you look at things differently. It absolutely does. I never thought that's why I wanted Masterclass, but it absolutely did.
Yeah.
When they start to talk about looking at things differently, it was like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
But it's also like, wait a minute. I do that. That's why I can do what I do. But now I notice that I do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Conscious decision.
Yeah. This is another one that I picked up. This is harder to find because I don't know if it's out of it's just difficult to find. I think you might be able to find it online in a few places, but if you're into fairy tale creatures, the Encyclopedia of Fairies.
Nice.
This is hobgoblins, brownies, bogies, and other supernatural creatures. I mean, this thing is literally an encyclopedia of every supernatural critter. And I had to find a used version. I couldn't find a new one. But it has been immensely helpful for researching the different lore behind these different characters that are so popular.
And if you just need a quick and dirty for overlap that, but not the same thing. Old D&D manuals.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And people will know what you're talking about when you know.
Really?
When you drop it in, it doesn't have a great deal of detail, and a whole lot of it is purely fictional, but some of it is historical. And after a while, if you do enough research on with the kind of books that Amy had there, you will be able to tell the difference. between something just made up for the game and something that is folklore.
Or shoot, talk to somebody that's a dungeon master.
Oh yeah.
They come up with the best stories. I mean, not all of them. Obviously, it takes a while, but I have met some that just they have their imagination. They just take off with it. You could get all kinds of inspiration from a from a DM.
Well, that's basically why I'm a writer now, because I was running stuff for a group of people who had godlike characters that no one would ever let them play because they were just so overpowered. And I go, okay, you really want me to do this? All right. And I threw them into situations to where they were not aware that their characters were getting depowered right and left. I took them down several notches.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Donna,
there are a number of great reference books that are for dungeon masters. Like I've got several books downstairs on firearms and weapons from around the world, and also a history of various conflicts, wars all throughout history. Because it's more, role playing is more than just D&D. It's superheroes. It's also war. And a lot of guys like Nick Tockert who use like miniatures. A lot of them are recreations of conflicts.
Yeah.
Like specific battles in a specific war.
Oh,
and
yeah.
there are books about everything you need to know for to make it sound right. Yeah, there we go, Michaela. There we go.
I just picked it up at a Goodwill one time. It's Battle, a history of combat and culture, because culture plays into the battle, the reason, the techniques, everything. So if you're going to write anything with a battle in it, research your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then there's Nick's book about how to kill people safely.
Safely, yes. The Simple Sword.
Honest to God,
yeah.
I got Nick's book, The Simple Sword, on my Kindle.
It's good.
Honest to God, yeah.
Really good.
Even though I am proficient in weapons, I learned stuff. Because hand-to-hand combat is not my thing, or not something I've ever done. Thank God. But I need to know some details, like how would this work this way, and could this work this way? Or am I just way out in left field, and my readers are going to be like, how did he sit on a unicorn and do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen.
Well, also there's YouTube. Like I find various authors that I like Susan Tisdale or Jenna Morisi. And there's one called Kindlepreneur, which is very helpful. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Amy. Yeah. Where it helps you build your business, which is something I think a lot of us, and I include myself at one point in time, kind of ignore that. This is a business. Especially if you're a self-publisher. But it's also a good way to stay up on markets, and also Skillshare is another good resource. Jenna Morisi, again, has two, I think now three. I haven't seen the latest one, but she's got a couple of really fantastic videos on how to market yourself.
Yes.
And how to develop your following as an author. So that's
how to launch a book, I think, is the third one.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I just learned about it. So.
And for people that are just getting into figuring out how to sell what they've got, and whether to decide to go through self-publishing or a small press, or to go ahead and shoot for the few remaining big name publishing houses. There's an online resource called Writer Beware that warns you where the scams are.
Exactly.
Also, another one called Predators and Editors.
Oh.
Yep.
Have you ever looked at my editorial page on an issue of Epelian, Brian?
No, I haven't. I did see a couple of people I know on Predators and Editors, though. And they weren't on the editor side either.
Epelian has been winning multiple awards from Predators and Editors for the past 10 or 12 years.
Good.
We usually make it into the top 10, sometimes the top 5. And some of our writers have been number 1.
Good.
Very cool.
I love that. It's
Heck
so much
yeah.
fun because it's the readers voting.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the best part because then you know it's not just a popularity vote. It's the readers really that have read this enjoy
Oh
it.
yeah.
oh yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
okay. Last year we won
Oh, he's looking.
best fiction magazine in the top 10 best poetry, top 10 best writers discussion forum,
That's awesome.
top 10 e-zine editor, and top 10 best magazine e-zine cover art.
Awesome.
The
Nice.
awards are cool.
Very nice.
Yes, they are. Boys are cool.
I
And someday
prominently
I will
dis-
get one. Dang it!
I
Someday.
prominently display them on my editorial page every month, and then they start the voting in December and January, and it runs. I think by the end of January, it's over with, and they start tallying up everything. I mean, the award is basically just a GIF, a GIF, a JPEG, just something you can display on your web
Right.
page. But it's recognition.
Yep. Rich has got it. Simple sword, fighting axe, and the simple spear. Yeah. Yep. Those are all Nick's books. Go check them out. Get them on Amazon.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't, honest to God, and I think I told Nick this. I didn't think I would get as much info out of it as I did because I'm already proficient in weapons, and I was like, "You can't teach me nothing." Oh no, 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 no! I learned. I promised. I learned. I
Oh,
learned. So don't
and
think that you can't learn anything. Um,
different writers have come out with stuff that is because of their general knowledge and their background have come out with stuff. They throw details into their stories that are
oh yeah,
not only historically accurate but very easy to learn
yes,
because they speak basically they put it down in a way that anybody could read it and pick it up.
mhm,
H. Beam Piper. If you go through the Lord Calvin stories, it uh, you learn a whole lot about the not only the political history of the Middle Ages, even though it's been recast to a different timeline and different names.
right,
Only the names have been changed.
changed.
Um, but you learn the exact details on how to make gunpowder from scratch, and a little bit of chemistry here. You learn about the various designs of armor and what's useful for what type of soldier, and
That sounds like a book I need to read.
cavalry. And let's see, he did one book called Space Viking, where there's historical references on every single page, and it's up to the reader to figure out which ones are the reference and which ones
How
he just made up out of whole cloth.
neat. Neat.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
Donna, I don't think you've mentioned anything. Do you have something?
Yeah.
Well, because I started out with crime drama, of course, I've got magazines on weapons, guns and ammo, that sort of thing. I have the police procedural. I have the entire how-to library on how to kill people, poisons.
Carl doesn't sleep.
No,
Not your
not well.
In fact, a friend of ours who at the time was the homicide detective of Vermilion County, yeah, we only had one, that's how small we are,
We don't even have one. So.
was looking at my books and said, you know, these are the exact books we look for in a suspect's house. And I'm like, if I ever do anything, not only will you not find those books, you will not be able to connect me to them because I paid cash for every single one.
Yes.
This is a great book, Writing Down the Bones, Freeing the Writer Within by Natalie Goldberg. It does. You were talking about putting the butter in. She calls it baking the cake.
Okay.
You know, it's really great. just because you're a writer doesn't mean you're going to get love. But it also has great things on, if you get stuck, change yourself up. Put on blue lipstick. You don't have to smoke it, but put a cigarette out, hang it out outside your lip. Go to a diner, but take an off time, and always order something to eat so that they don't get mad at you for sitting there and taking up time.
Yeah.
Wear your friend's motorcycle jacket and walk in like a Hell's Angel. Anything to get your imagination going.
Yes.
This is how to write better in 1 hour. Like, use your words correctly. You don't have to say absolutely complete. You can just say complete. That sort of thing. But I also have other kinds of references. Sometimes you need to name people. Writer's Digest character naming source book.
Oh,
and you see I've got bunches of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It has everything, Anglo-Saxon, Arabic, Arthurian legend names. Anything from
I knew you had a book when I asked you. Remember, I asked you for certain names.
And this is the book I go to.
I figured that's what you did. I figured you had.
Yes. Celtic, Norse.
Yep.
And sometimes you need just names. From Aaron to Zoe, 15,000 great baby names. I looked through and went, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, honest to God, because it gets boring using the same names that you know or names of your friends, and it's like, okay, I need a new name. Mm-hmm. And then you ask the internet, and they give you all the same freaking names that you already came up with.
Yes.
There's also a character name generator online you can use.
Oh, yes.
Where you can put in if they're a certain ethnicity, or if they're from a certain time period, or when were they born, what names were popular at that time.
That's where this one comes in very, very handy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took this one up to buy it, and the lady rings it up and says, "Congratulations!" And I'm like, "Why? Well, aren't you going to have a baby?" I'm like, "No, I'm going to have a new story, and I need names."
I got a book baby.
Yeah, new book baby, but that's it.
Do you need characteristics? This is the birthday book.
What?
And it tells you what kind of characteristics, if you were born on like August 29th, supposedly you're supposed to act this way. You may not have to, you don't have to follow your everything in it, but it goes, oh, wait a minute, this Taurus person does this. And it might work in your story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So, yeah. And before Google, there was this big building called a library. And if you think that if you think you have to know what to look for when you're on Google, you really know.
Yeah.
I scared a couple people.
Yeah. Try using a library's card catalog back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, we still had one in the 90s.
I don't know what a card catalog is anymore.
When I was writing my last book, Walls, the Beth and Hill book, I had a frozen corpse that I needed to know how long it would take to thaw out before they could do the autopsy. So I'm looking in this anatomy book, I'm looking at this anatomy book, and I'm at one end of the table, and there's this nice-looking Asian couple on the other end. Oh, no. And Carl comes up and says, "How's it going?" And without thinking, I look up and I say, "I don't know how long I have to thaw the body before I can cut it up." And all of a sudden I hear this at the end, and they're gathering their stuff up and almost running away from the table.
Mm-hmm. True story.
Mm-hmm.
I'll vouch for it.
So yeah, being a writer can be so much fun.
Oh, I know. But, one of my other things that I
Oh,
wanted
everybody ought to have a basic manual of chemistry too.
chemistry, I just can't. I have to ask my nerd friends because I'm even
They're,
opening
they're
that book, my brain would go dead. Like I can't fathom it.
that's why I said basic.
Okay.
Um, something for like a middle schooler. You
Okay,
know?
I could probably
Yeah.
pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have several science books. I have all of John Douglas's books. For those who do not know, John Douglas is the FBI father of
Profiler.
profiling.
Yep.
Father of profiling. I don't
Yep.
care what that other guy says. John is the guy who started it.
Yes.
Ran across him originally in the Unsolved Mysteries chat room of
Oh, cool.
the folks that were researching all the Victorian era Jack the Ripper sort of mysteries.
Oh,
I think I hate
And
you.
hey, uh, I can walk up to a certain area of London in the middle of the night and say, "Hey, Martin Fido," you know, he's leading a tour group, you know.
Okay. Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
now I'm jealous if you know John.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know him. I know of him.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not so jealous then.
Well, I was gonna say that doesn't make it that much better. But one thing I wanted to touch on too was don't just think it's writing books. Don't just think it's how to write. It's how to market. Because once you've written that book,
Mhm.
now what? Even if you're with the publisher, and I cannot stress this enough, even if you're with the publisher, they're not going to market for you. Your name is not John Grisham. It is not, Stephen King. They're not going to market for you, I promise.
Yep,
And
you're not going to get a
even
full
when they
page
do
spread in the
market,
New York Times.
No,
right.
not even
Even when they
thinking.
do market, it's few. You don't see the commercials on TV anymore. You don't see a lot of them on YouTube. If it's a commercial, it's one the author put out. It's just it's a TikTok. It's a snippet of a video. That's it. Even the big names don't get marketed anymore like they used to. So find a book on marketing. Find several books on marketing. I even have one that is time management for dummies because time management is something that you will have to figure out.
Oh, the whole For Dummies series.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh yeah.
If there's anything you
Yeah.
want to learn,
Or
like
The
chemistry.
Idiot's Guide.
Yeah,
Yes.
really.
I see.
If you have to know
Time
something
management
about
stuff. Yep, you're right there.
some characters is a brewer making their own beer or making their own
Yeah,
wine, whatever.
you have to know.
There are For Dummies manuals that will put it in plain language you can understand.
And I hate to say this as an author, but most of us don't make millions. So if you have to go to a bookstore to get a book, you can get a used book. Like my used bookstore, you can get the book, reference the book, and if it's not something that you think you'll ever use again, you can take it back and they'll give you trade credit for it so you can get a new book.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. There's also the library. Don't discount your library. If your library doesn't have it, ask your librarian. They can get it.
You can find treasures at Goodwill and Salvation Army and several of the other places like that, Potter's House.
Right. And I hate to say it because then you're
Ollie's,
not
yes, Ollie's.
the money, but as an author, as a struggling author, we've all been there where you don't have the money to spend $40 on that book just to have a reference book.
Yeah.
And you might have another writing friend who has a book.
Right, borrow it. Yeah.
Well, or go to their house and use it only in that room, like we do.
You can't borrow my books.
Done is off the shelf.
Yeah.
So
The only way you can borrow my books is in my library.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
It was good to see you guys.
Yeah, it was
Bye,
good to see you.
Amy.
Bye.
Bye.
Somebody was showing a book online, and I'm like, oh, I need that book. And I think it was either Crayley. I think it was Crayley. Said, me too. Well, I looked it up. $20 for a paperback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no.
That's why
I'm
flipped
Scottish.
out when my publisher was like, "Your book is $18.99." I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
No. For a
I
big,
mean, I know when I first submitted that first draft, there was 110,000 words in that book, but there's not now. There's more like 85,000 words in that book. And to
But-
me, coming from where I come from, $20 for a book is a lot. I've had to learn to sell that book
mm-hmm.
and make almost no profit at that $20 mark. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sometimes it's all I can do to sell it. Other times it flies off the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We could do an episode on
Oh,
perceived
yeah.
value, you know.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Just,
Hey,
yeah.
I grew up in a time when a brand new paperback book was about 35 cents,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
and comics were less than that.
Yeah, what sucks is
Dramatically
some of the
so.
books I get still have that printed on them. Like
Mhm.
$2.99. I'm like, really? That would have been great.
Yeah.
Yep. And nowadays, the same book put out in a new edition, $15 to $35, and
Now-
it's not a word has been added or taken away.
Right.
It's just times
But
have changed.
Yeah, times have changed. It's the
Did
value
you
of things.
mention
everything's going up.
eBay?
Yeah, eBay.
I
Very
bought
good
books
idea.
on eBay. In fact, the first book on the show tonight was an eBay purchase.
Oh, cool.
If I can,
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
I've talked about this one before, but Sisson's
Yes.
Word and Expression Locator.
Yeah.
Okay, much like thesaurus, except it goes into a little more detail. Like if you look up fortune, it'll say auspicious, fortunate, opportune, but then underneath it says by cards. That could be cartomancy or tarot. By crystal ball, scrying. By dreams, eromancy. I can't pronounce that one. By pyromancy, and it keeps going.
Yeah.
So you can say, oh, okay, that's not the kind of fortune I was looking for. So you might go on, and keep looking. But those kinds of things are very helpful when you're just stuck on a word, and maybe it'll suggest another word, and that will get you going on to find whatever it is you're looking for.
Or if you're writing something, you know what it is in your head, but you don't know the right word for
Exactly.
it. That would be wonderful.
That
That reminds me.
Does that a lot.
better than the thesaurus for that.
That reminds me of the reverse dictionary we have.
Yes.
Yes.
Forgot about that.
Right?
Forgot about that
A
too.
reverse dictionary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it kind of goes backwards.
Okay.
Look up something, and then it'll tell you what the word would be to describe that.
I'll be damned.
We'll bring that some night too.
Yeah.
We're trying to limit ourselves to 3 apiece, but but
No.
yeah, Donna snuck up a couple more too.
Yeah.
Another one that I
I
use,
only have 5.
and I've talked about this before, the Dictionary of American Slang,
Okay. Now,
because
when was that copyrighted or printed? When was
Okay.
that printed?
that's a good question. I got this copy, and I was looking that up, and I was small print. This is 1975 is when I bought this.
Okay.
Back
That's way out of
It's
order.
Well, I was going to say, so now,
before
but
Now
if
you
need it,
Now you need to print out of the Urban Dictionary.
for
I
back
was gonna say,
then,
I spent a lot of time
it
on the
works.
Urban Dictionary.
Well,
Used to read emails.
what I like is that this is not only just the slang of that time, but also the slang of past times, and it tells you when that came into effect. So let's say I was writing a story about, I don't know, a Western.
Uh-huh.
Thinks she comes across the word jayhawker, and she's like, okay, when did that come into use? When did they first use that word? Jayhawker was a lawless soldier, an irregular or guerrilla fighter, usually one whose motive for fighting is personal enrichment. So
mercenary.
mercenaries. It's a Western term much used during the border wars around 1855.
Okay.
Okay.
It would have been in y'all's area.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit further west, but
A little bit.
And it ended up, it was a native of Kansas now. So if you say Jayhawker now, people will think you're talking about somebody from Kansas. But back in the day, they were a mercenary. So that's something that, I didn't know before I looked in here.
Yeah.
That evolution of the word, that particular word, that says a lot about people from Kansas.
Well, I wasn't going to mention that, but yes, it does.
I got a cousin out in Kansas.
Another book I think I probably got in the 70s, The Well-Tempered Sentence. Okay. And this is by Karen Elizabeth Gordon. And it has all kinds of different ways of using periods, commas. There was one about verbs, and this is the one about punctuation. So it even tells you when to use semicolons and colons and hyphens and dashes.
Don't bring up that one.
I'm going to talk about the comma tonight.
Oh, Lord.
But not that one that Donna.
The Oxford comma?
Them people in Oxford don't know nothing.
No, I'm not even going to bring that up. But anyway, there were several places where it says a comma is needed after a dependent clause, usually a fairly long one, that precedes an independent clause. So if your main sentence is kind of hidden at the end, but you're kind of starting actually, you're warming up to it.
Yes.
So as far as I'm concerned, comma, all phone calls are obscene. So it lists funny sentences that kind of explain the whole thing.
Well, you talk about
that's
things
why I like this.
That sounds cool. We talk about the books that kind of make you look at words in a different light. It's in the public domain now, I think, but it's called The Devil's Dictionary by Ambrose Bierce.
Yes.
It is hilarious, and it is very cynical, and a really good way to look at words in a different light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm writing it down. Devil's
Dictionary.
Yep. Yeah, Ambrose Bierce was a neat writer, and
had quite a life, yeah.
Wasn't he the one that just absolutely disappeared?
Yeah, he vanished.
Nice.
I can't remember. I want to say the Spanish-American War was around that time, I think. But he was a very popular writer at the time, and then he liked following these armies, and then he followed one and never came back, and nobody knows what happened to him. So
yeah, he was one of the folks that was writing the Lovecraftian stuff.
Yeah.
With there's a huge list, but
Robert
Frank
Bloch,
Long, Robert E. Howard, yeah. Hi, Joe.
Thanks for coming.
Joe. See you, Joe.
That's an interesting circle of writers to look up, because Robert Bloch. I mean,
wrote Psycho. That's what
you would not have Psycho without H.P. Lovecraft and Robert Bloch having sent letters to each other.
Yeah. And Rich, I'm going to try, I've got them written down as we're going. I'm going to try and list at least the authors in the show notes. So to try and help you out. But yeah, definitely rewatch if there's something you think you missed. And I won't get it in the notes or something.
Well, let me go to my library shelves and see if I can figure out which one of the there's a Keith Laumer book where he puts some of his short stories in there with commentary in between to tell people why he wrote it that way.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And
I'll
Rich, don't be
right
afraid
back.
to ask us, about certain books.
Yeah.
For recommendations and such. I'm more than happy to share what little I know. So.
Yeah. Well, and if there's something that we didn't touch on, let us know. Like, we'll make a whole show out of it.
Yeah.
Getting off topic here, I wanted to bring up something real quick that happened to me today.
Yeah.
I was watching a YouTube video from a photographer. Okay, and you're thinking, okay, what's that have to do with writing?
Right.
She went out in the forest, and she saw this tree, and it was the tree. Okay, for her, it was like, oh, I've got to photograph this tree, but the light is not right now. Okay, so I will come back. In her quest for perfection. She left the tree, didn't take any photos of it. Even though she's got a camera, it's a digital camera, she could have taken some snap. No,
Right.
she didn't. I'll come back when the lighting is right and get that tree. She came back, found the tree had been chopped down. The lighting was perfect. The tree was not. Okay? So this shows us that perfectionism can sometimes make you miss an opportunity.
Yes.
And you need to take that opportunity now while you can. Don't wait till the light is right, because it may never be, or the tree will be gone.
Right.
You won't get your photo. And the same goes for writing. You know, if you don't write it now, when will you do it? You're going to wait till the right light? It won't happen.
Right. And you may think you have tomorrow, but some of us are not guaranteed tomorrow. I promise. I get caught sometimes with the, I have to write this down. I have to write this down, because if I don't at least get an outline, nobody's ever going to know what to do with it if I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are I'm not going to die tomorrow. But sometimes I get that itch of, I've got to get all this written down. I've got to get it. Because how is somebody else going to follow this if I don't get at least the outline?
I started doing that 30 years ago, and some of the stories I've never even gone back to. I mean, they're there.
It happens. Yeah.
But some of them I have gone back to.
Right.
I was glad to have the little snippet of whatever it was that I wrote down.
Yeah.
I was dancing while you were to perform a distraction, man, and now it's gone again.
Well, you mentioned perfection, and I had a friend who said one time that perfection is impossible, but excellence is achievable.
There you go.
Yeah.
So don't wait till it's perfect. Just get that stuff out there.
Yep.
You can always fix it later.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, some people call me nuts, but that's why I like editing, because I can't fix anything if it's not there to fix. So with my own work, I do it. Like right now, I've got one that I could hand it off to Donna and Carl and say, here, it's done. But I know it's not done, because I can go through it and I can say, oh, no. I got to add more feeling in this paragraph, or that one, or that didn't come out the way I wanted it to.
It's
because it's there. Yeah, that's a story. I could publish it tomorrow if I wanted to, but it's not good enough yet.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we share a folder in Dropbox that has my backlog of stories in it, and about once a month I go through and read each story. And the unfortunate thing is when you change something and save it and in something in Dropbox, the other person who shares that file gets a notice. So and so is
So and so's mucking with it. Or is it that so and so is mucking with it?
Yeah.
I did find the book. Let's see if I can get that. Yeah. And it's basically a collection of his short stories, and in between, he explains why he wrote them that way instead of a different way. He is best known as a science fiction writer, but he always thought of himself as an action writer. Whoa. He didn't tell science fiction stories, he told adventure stories.
Well, yeah. That's when someone said my book was kind of sci-fi. I went, I don't write sci-fi.
Yeah. You throw time travel and alternate dimensions in there. It's
bingo. Yeah.
It's bordering. Yeah.
It is. And I won't say that I don't like sci-fi, but I thought, well, that's not what I wrote. I didn't write sci-fi. Well, it kind of is. It's kind of science fiction.
Maybe that's why in my review that I just uploaded to Amazon today, I mentioned that it was one of your best works yet. So
what? No way. But that's the idea, actually. That's supposed to be. So my next one should be better than that one. It should always be better, because I'm always growing and always learning.
Well, we'll have to get it and see then, won't we?
Yeah. And this one won't be even in the same genre, so it might be a total, fly ball. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah.
Do you understand that reference, Carl?
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel figure if I'm having fun and I like the story and the story pulls me in, it's going to pull the readers in, because I can't write boring. I can't read boring. If the story doesn't catch me in that first paragraph or two, or sometimes I'll give it the first chapter, but if I'm not in it and I don't love that character, or there's something that I'm like, I have to know, the book is put down and I walk away.
Yeah. That is my greatest problem with self-editing. When I've done something that's really good, and I know it's really good, I'll go back and I'll read it, and I'll be looking for stuff that I need to fix. And sooner or later, the story grabs me instead of editorial mode.
And you stop editing and you start reading.
I stop remembering that I wrote it, you know.
Yes.
That's the problem with writing the stories you want to read, but nobody else has gotten around to it yet.
Yeah.
Is when you get it right, they're really good, and you don't want to edit, you want to read.
Yeah.
It's two different modes of thinking.
That's the nice thing about being somewhat schizophrenic, that my writer side, thinks everything, it recognizes that it's going to have to go through the chopper eventually, and my editor side is a bit of an a-hole. And believes in tough love. So it's like I can go back and look at my work, like say, like a week later, and I will judge it as if I don't know the writer and I don't care about his feelings whatsoever. Kind of like my wife, and who's also a pretty good editor. And unfortunately, most of the best advice has been tough love. Mostly people that I think had a higher opinion of me than my writing demonstrated, and so they let me know in no uncertain terms how disappointed they were in me. And so, but I got a lot of good advice, and to keep them from being disappointed in the future, I took that to heart. But now I'm continuing the cycle of abuse. Like I tell people, I edited a book for a publisher last year that started out at 35,000 words. It was, I added another 20,000 with my suggestions.
Yeah. But
it turned out to be a great book.
And if you're explaining like a good editor should, especially if you realize the author doesn't understand techniques or so if you're explaining stuff, great. I would rather have that than the editor that I had with the Wild Rose Press, who went, here, fix it.
Yeah.
Fix what? To me, it looks perfect. Fix what? Teach me. I had to go to my critique partner to get taught. Like, that's the editor's job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when you're writing.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. No.
Yeah.
I will say, it was kind of nice. I read a book by a woman that I don't idolize her, but I look up to her.
Yeah.
I read her book and she said, will you give me a review? I said, sure, I've got time. I'll do it. I gave her an honest review, and it was only like 3 stars because I had read her other books, and this one flopped. This one just fell flat on its face. There was no other way to put it. Like, this was not her work. And she reached out to me and she said, what would have made you give it 4 stars or even 5 stars? And I said, this, and this. But it wasn't evil. It wasn't, you suck. You have horrible writing. It was, I was critiquing. Hey, this paragraph here didn't make sense at all. Like, it didn't fit. This wasn't your caliber. This looked like you'd forgotten to get it to your editor. So maybe it wasn't a formatting thing. Like, the formatting looked okay, but it also looked like maybe your editor went, yeah, it's good, and didn't even look at it. Like, so I was honest. It wasn't your caliber of book. And she said,
I once got an editor that had not read the same sort of classical literature that I had, and the problem was I was dropping in literary references that she did not know. So I had to stop and explain stuff. And
as long as the editor comes back with, okay, that's something I didn't know. I'll now research that. Or, okay, let's work on that. Because a reader like me wouldn't understand it. How can you better explain it so that a reader like me can understand it?
Yeah,
Um,
and I was just
Yeah.
thinking, maybe this might be something that also the reader needs explained, a little bit of
Right.
extra
Yeah,
exposition.
exactly,
So, yeah.
exactly. That
right.
was one of
For
those
them to
things.
come back and
The-
say, just fix it, that doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
no, it
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't.
So
What needs to
movies,
be
if you
fixed?
listen, if you get an editor that says just fix it and they don't explain it, get a new editor. Just move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting, Rich. Modern fantasy with a bit of Western to it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun to kind of blend genres if that's intentional. One of my favorite stories that I ever wrote was for an anthology, and it's a superhero western,
Mm.
and it's about a gunfighter with super speed,
Hmm.
and who didn't necessarily use his guns to kill people.
Oh, that
Interesting.
might be an interesting read.
It was, and it was it got some good edits. I worked with a very wonderful lady, Jennifer McDonald, who basically tough loved me through it and learned an immense amount from the experience. And so, Rich, I think that sounds exciting. Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing stuff like that.
Oh,
But by the same
that's-
token, I now want to write a straight western just to see if I can do it.
I tell you, the modern Western that I'm working on, I never dreamed it would go so fast. Like, I think I started working on it 3 or 4 months ago, and I'm basically done. I'm fleshing it out now, giving it detail. But shoot, it went so fast. I don't know if it was because I've become a better writer through all of the other stuff that I've dealt with. But with modern, you don't have to research so much. Like, there were a couple things I had to research, but I didn't have to research, okay, what kind of clothing did they wear? What kind of food did they eat? What kind, you already know. There's a pizza joint on the corner. There's a cop shop 2 blocks down. Like, you just make up a town. You can't do that with historical stuff unless it's something you've already studied and it's already in the back of your mind because you've got all those reference books.
Yeah, and I realized the other day that I also do some nonfiction articles every now and then for some editors, and I realize I do less research on nonfiction than I do my fiction.
Yeah, because you already know the stuff. So
Yeah.
you just fly through it and here you go. Here's an article.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't consider fantasy my genre, and I certainly don't consider science fiction. But I do have a story about leprechauns on a B5 like station.
Hmm.
Well, leprechauns are sci-fi, aren't they?
I
No.
think more
No,
is
they'd be
fantasy.
more like myth.
Yeah, myth
Yeah,
and fantasy, I'd say.
Yeah.
And of course, as in Dragons
Those are
and
bionic.
Wizards, I cheated.
Yeah.
I broke a rule on the fantasy.
Oh, damn it! What are we gonna do with you? Well,
That's
been
okay.
fun.
That's okay. I wrote a western and broke a rule on the science fiction.
Well, you know what they say rules are meant for.
Yeah.
Hey, I knew I was breaking it when I did it. I had a very good reason, and it worked. It worked really well.
Mhm.
And if you have read any Victorian era science fiction or uh, moderately, well, some of the original Western stuff, just the stuff that borders on fairy tale, um, you would get a lot of the references that were dropped into that. But I actually had to go and look up different um, mythology of Indian tribes for the area that I set the story in because
Yeah.
I wanted a particular critter
Mhm.
that they would have some kind of legend
Absolutely.
about,
Yep.
and it had to be widespread enough to where several different tribes would have
The same
a
character.
similar legend
Mhm.
and be able to go, oh yeah, that's this thing that they talked about, and don't go near the lake when if you think one of these is in there. And then it also had a huge dollop of H.G. Wells as well, and it's perfectly obvious that it is supposed to be science fiction, but it's if you read it, it's basically a classical western.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it blends well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Extremely
Yeah.
better than I had hoped for when I
Good.
started.
And that's what you always are aiming for. You're aiming for that blend. So like mine are historical, paranormal, romance. I didn't plan that. It just happened. And somebody said, "How did you learn to blend that well?" And I said, "Well, I didn't. I just said, well, a knight in shining armor is not enough. Because that's boring. Everybody does a knight in shining armor. It's not enough. My guys have to be special." Or with this first book, there was one and done. Like I was going to write one book and be famous. I learned, however, that's not how it goes. So it became a series. So it became not the one guy, but all of the guys are not just knight in shining armor. There's a little more to them than that. But that also made not just there's more as in physically more, there's more to them. They're well-rounded characters. You fall in love with each one because each one is different. To do that, I had to people watch.
I was
Because
about to.
I act one way, my husband acts one way, my kids each act a certain way. Well, you can use some of those mannerisms, but at that point, then you got 5 people. Okay, well, I need 19. Like, you gotta find more mannerisms.
Mhm.
So you
Yep.
people watch.
I was going to bring that up when we were talking about
Resources.
stuff, resources, research, and whatnot. Um, a lot of writers turn out to be very, very keen observers of the human condition. Everybody around them
Oh, heck yeah.
is potentially a character.
Mm-hmm. All right, Karen.
Yes, isn't it though?
Yes, I have a T-shirt that's to that. Anything you do or say may end up in one of my stories.
This
Fair
is my
warning.
first author
And if
T-shirt.
if you
I will
if
get
you
another one.
if you upset me, I will kill you off in a very horrible way.
Yes, you'll be
I've
the
done
plot.
that. It's great. Oh yeah, that looks.
We
great.
haven't mentioned the spy genre yet.
Oh,
This is a
Oh,
book
yeah.
on spycraft, and it was written by Keith Melton, who was part of the CIA. And this book
okay.
actually had to be cleared. I think it's got the CIA logo up here. It had to be
Wow.
cleared by the CIA.
Hmm.
They would let him, and several chapters got cut out.
I was gonna say, I wonder how much has been changed since that book came out, because now they're like, well, we can't do that anymore. That's not gonna work.
Well, those kind of things were taken out.
Declassified.
Yeah. This is mostly things that you used to do in the Cold War
Okay.
and World War II. But some of these techniques have really helped me on the latest book.
Mhm.
Hey,
Sure. Well,
Another
this
pair
is
of good
mine.
ones that I learned a lot from was.
Does Donna have a spy kit?
I've got that, Donna.
Oh,
Hold it up
Lord.
a little higher there, dear.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Man from Uncle. Yes, indeed.
United Network Command for Law Enforcement.
Every single episode, movie, and the official How to Be a Spy book.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. I've always thought when I was a little kid I wanted to be a spy.
Carl,
Don't we
I've
all?
got a
I have
couple
a couple
that
in my family.
probably would be of interest to you. One is The Man Who Never Was, and the other is Operation Mincemeat. They are both about the same subject.
Mm-hmm.
One is written for a school child. The other is written for an adult.
Oh.
Yeah, I have Operation Mincemeat. He's one of my favorite authors, McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Well, another good resource is actually going out and meeting people in the profession. Like, for instance, I've taken it a couple times. There's
Shall
a
return.
course here in Lafayette, Indiana. In fact, there are several communities in this area that have it. It's called the Citizens Academy, where we learn police work from forensics to dispatch to canine to CSI to the law. And it's, and I've got several email addresses. I was joking with people that one of my beta readers, if I ever do crime, strict crime book, one of my beta readers was the chief of police.
Well, when you need to reference stuff and make sure that you got it right, he's going to pick out those things and go, I liked your story, but this one part was wrong because you said.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of professions are inaccurately portrayed in the media. Like, you would think that police would be just like totally ape over something like CSI. They hate that show with a passion because, as the guy who was in there, one of their detectives explained to me, said it now has trained the public to think that all crimes can be solved in 45 minutes, and every crime scene is awash in semen, DNA samples, and viable fingerprints.
Yes, and there's clues everywhere.
Exactly.
You just have to look. Yeah, no, it's not that way sometimes.
Yeah, and this puts a lot of pressure on,
the
police.
And sometimes the bad guys get away, and sometimes the innocent guys go to jail.
Exactly.
Like,
and that's
sucks,
why.
But that's how it works.
And all you have to do with a lot of these people, go to a doctor, go to a teacher, go to whoever, and say, the magic words are, I want to get this right.
Yes.
And you'd be amazed how much you can learn. And sometimes, even if like you're doing, if you want to learn what a patrolman does, call your local police department and ask if you can do what's called ride along.
Yes.
Where you go with the cop on the shift. And like when I did my first one, I was talking to my contact in the police, and he goes, which shifts do you want? And I said, well, I want a midweek around dinner time, normal day. And he said, great, you'll love it, because he knew I was a writer. He said, what do you want the other one to be? I said, I want it to be midnight on a Friday or Saturday under the full moon. Yeah. And his response was, are you out of your effing mind? And I'm like, yes, sir, I am.
Yes, sir.
That was the best one.
What part of I'm a writer did you not understand?
Yeah. Sometimes go into these writer conventions, because I will suggest that. If there's a writer convention that has classes you can take, go, if at all possible. If it's not, put on Facebook, put on your social media, hey, I'm writing a story about X, Y, or Z. I want to get these details right. I need someone who's a nurse. I need someone who's a doctor. I need someone who's a dentist. Whoever. They will sit down with you as long as you're upfront and you say, hey, I need book research. I want to pick your brain for an hour. When you have time, can you set aside and we'll talk about the questions that I have. But be ready. Have your questions ready. Don't waste their time. But reach out and say, hey, I want to get these details right. Who on my friends list is a dentist? Who on my friends list is a maid at a hotel? Yeah. How would that go? Because if you're going to walk up on a murder scene, it's probably going to be the maid at the hotel.
Yeah. And also, we love talking about what we are doing as far as writing goes. Do you think we're the only profession that loves that?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. It's like, everybody wants to talk about what they do and to make sure you understand. So.
And never underestimate the people that will show up at a convention that have nothing to do with writing. They just love to read. There was one LibertyCon. Stephanie Osborne and I wound up sitting at a table with a fellow who was an arson investigator for a fire department.
Oh, awesome.
And by the time that discussion was finished, Stephanie and I both knew at least 5 different ways to kill someone undetectably.
Oh, nice.
Using chemistry
we'll be talking
and
later.
Arson. Yes. But basically, one of the things that stuck in my mind was it was actually possible to pump a poisonous gas into a room through the air conditioner and then set the building on fire. No trace. Not even an autopsy would be able to figure out that it was not a natural chemical reaction from the fire.
Hunter says mustard gas?
Mustard,
now, that one's a little bit too easy to detect.
Well, the thing is, though, there was a popular household cleaner back in the 70s that people were injecting into cigarettes because the heat turned it into mustard gas.
Oh,
I kind of startled my science instructor at college with that knowledge.
Yeah,
we got put
and
off the list.
Yeah.
if you use a bathroom cleaner and you run out, do not put bleach on top of
No,
because that is mustard gas again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My mother found that out the hard way. Fortunately, the bathroom had a huge window in it.
Yep.
Oh, I came home from work one day and my second wife had been cleaning grease off the stove and in the oven. Thankfully, it was electric, not gas. She was using Clorox bleach and then dumped a bunch of ammonia on there.
Exactly.
See ya.
And she wondered why she was feeling sick. And I go, I'm turning the attic fan on and you are going to go sit on the porch.
Yeah, outside you go. Yep. Well, guys, we are about, we're a little after an hour. Look at that.
Yeah, really. Hour 15.
Yeah.
I do want to reply to
Hunter.
No, I want to reply to Rich where he said he felt like his thing was Shane with a wand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Michaela will get the reference.
I
but
didn't. No.
Shane is a Western.
Okay.
I've got the book. I've got the movie starring Alan Ladd.
Great movie.
Great movie, great book, and
I feel like I should
now
know
that I'm thinking about it with a wand, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the movie Outland with Sean Connery? That was
Yes.
basically High Noon in space.
Yes, it
Never saw
was.
it.
Great movie. Seriously.
The retellings and mixtures.
Sean Connery, was it Farrah Fawcett and Harvey Keitel?
I think so. It had a really good cast. Yeah.
Yeah. The part where it fell down was people had gotten used to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, so they didn't think the robot would go crazy that way.
Yeah.
Evidently, they'd never seen Runaway with Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons. Yes.
That's another.
Or Westworld.
Oh. Now I've got
Crichton.
I've got the shooting script for Westworld over here with Michael Crichton's commentary in there about how hard it was to do, and inventing the special effects.
Yeah. Yikes. Well, Crichton was a great writer. He and Martin Caidin are my two favorites because they can take complex scientific stuff and make it palatable to the the usual clods that would read the story, like me. So
Andromeda Strain is one of my favorite
I'm glad you
books
found a
and
different
movies.
way to say dumb it down, but never mind.
It's from years of reading Mad and the Usual Gang of Clods. So.
Sean Connery, Peter Boyle, John Ratzenberger. Oh my!
Donna just got excited.
No, I'm thinking of his postman from Cheers and trying to put him into a serious.
You mean Norm?
He was also in Superman.
No, not Norm. The other guy, the post guy.
Cliff.
John Ratzenberger was also in Superman the movie.
What?
He played one of the army. He played one of the army guys.
Yeah.
There were a couple of folks from Cheers in the House movies, where somebody broke through a wall and there were alternate dimensions on the other side of the wall. Ratzenberger came in as a plumber.
Oh Lord!
And was going to fix the pipes, and all of a sudden the weird shit started happening. Opened up his toolbox, pulled out a sword.
There you go.
I keep a sword in my toolbox.
Like
a big toolbox or a small sword.
Well, anytime you're going up against a possessed haunted house, might come in a little bit more handy than a monkey wrench, but then again, a monkey wrench also makes a very good club.
Say, if used properly, yes.
It will make an effective mace, yes.
Go ahead,
I was just going to add that, we've been showing books from our library, and these are books that, we used enough that we thought we'll buy them. You don't have to buy every book.
No.
You can
I just like collecting them, and I like different.
No, you
Yes.
can borrow mine if you come
Well,
and read them in my library.
Yeah.
And very good advice that I got was, okay, you don't have a huge budget to buy all these books. Go to the library. Because the library is a place that I forgot about, honest to God. It wasn't something that we could get to when I was a kid because we lived out in the middle of nowhere and we didn't have a car or gas money a lot of times. So I couldn't get to the library unless it was the school library, and that was very limited. But even our local libraries here in this town that I live in now, I can go to the librarian and say, hey, I need this specific book. How long do you think it'll take you to get it? Not very long at all. Those library systems, they're fast. They network with each other, and you can get that book. And then you're reading the book, and you're like, man, I've only got it a week. I need another week. Check it out for another week. Like, the library is a resource you need to exploit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have trouble getting out, there's another resource called Hoopla.
Hoopla, yes.
HOOPLA.com that is tied into your library card that you get. You know, if your library is part of the groups that finance Hoopla,
yes.
You can get all kinds of great reference books, graphic novels, music, TV, everything.
Everything.
So,
My books, your books, everybody's books, they're on Hoopla.
I mentioned Project Gutenberg before. It's free. And it's loaded with stuff. There was one that is more pulp fiction and noir oriented called Black Mask Online, which is also free to download. There's probably a great deal more than that I have used and forgotten.
I was gonna say, if you think about it, pop back onto this show and put it in the notes. Put it down below in like a comment, so everybody can see it. What the hell else? I had one more thing. What was I going to say? Yep, see, there it goes. Like lightning, it's gone.
Call us back when you think of it.
Yeah, I know, right?
As soon as you hit the end show button, you'll think of it.
Yep, I will.
Put it in the comments below.
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments, yeah. I'll ask my own question. All right, guys. Do you have anything else? Does anybody have anything, or did we miss a book or a reference?
Probably.
Oh, we probably missed last time.
Probably one. So
we can come back and do it again.
Yep, we'll do it again. So all right. So not this coming Monday, the next Monday. I had it. Dang it! I've written it.
I do have one thing.
Yeah, go for it, Dan.
Remember, writers, the most important thing: butt in the chair, fingers on keyboard, throw words at the page. You don't have to make it deathless prose the first time.
Good God, no. Nope.
Yep.
The 22nd.
Yep, 22nd. The 22nd, we will be back and do this again.
Which, when I look at my calendar, is the day that Donna and I met.
The dates, yeah.
What? That's awesome. We're going to have cake.
Oh, yum. I love cake.
Yeah, cake. I like cake.
Do we each have to go get cake and then bring it to the show? Or,
yeah, we'll just have to bring our own.
We'll do it live from Donna and Carl's.
There you go. There you go. Well, I think Dan would be the only one that couldn't get there.
Yeah, really. It'd be a bit of a stretch for me, but...
I'll write you a note, Dan. We'll get you off work. It'll be fine.
Yeah. We'll send you a bus ticket. You'll get here next week. All right.
I don't have that much vacation time to spare.
Outro thing now and see if that works. So let's see if I can be professional and do the outro thing. But we'll say goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Hey, look at that. I did it, but I don't.
You did it.
Yes, I just got to figure out how to click the end button before that. So
It's still going.
Still going.
We're still.
Yep.